Hi guys, welcome back to Busy Making Videos. So today we'll be checking out Bbnaija All Stars most followed housemates on Instagram before and after the show. And I'll be starting with the person with the lowest followers to the most followed housemate. That's the highest followers on Instagram. And I have the number one on my list, and his name is Soma. And Soma had 395k followers on Instagram before the show, and now the show is over. He now has 449k followers on Instagram and is still counting. I have Princess on my list. Okay, before the show she had 350k followers on Instagram, and after the show she now has 452k followers on Instagram and is still counting. Okay, I have Adekili on my list, and before the show he had 400k followers on Instagram, and now the show is over. He now has 567k followers on Instagram and is still counting. Doyin is next on my list, and before the show she had 375k followers on Instagram, and after the show 589k followers on Instagram. Okay, the next on my list is our dear winner Bbnaija, and before the show she had 305k followers on Instagram, and now that she won the show and the show is over, she now has 805k followers on Instagram. This girl really get followers, honestly. Okay, I have Lucy on my list, and before the show she had 730k followers on Instagram, and after the show 806k followers on Instagram and is still counting. Para is next on my list, and before the show Para had 746k followers on Instagram before the show commenced, and after the show he got 855k followers on Instagram. I have the next on my list, and he is Sheyi, and Sheyi had 891k followers on Instagram, and after the show 935k followers on Instagram and is still counting. Cross had 835k followers on Instagram, and after the show 1 million followers. Are you kidding me? 1 million followers on Instagram. Wow. Okay, Prince had 1 million followers. He didn't stay long, so after the show he now had 1.1 million, so just 100k followers followed him, and it's still cool. It's okay. Just drop in the comment section how you feel about it. Okay, the Tolani Badge is next on my list, and before the show she had 1 million followers, and after the show she got extra followers and now has 1.2 million followers on Instagram. Angel is the next on my list, and Angel had 1.1 million followers on Instagram before the show, and after the show she now has 1.3 million followers on Instagram and is still counting because she's still trending. Okay, Oma Shola is the next on my list, and before the show had 1.1 million followers on Instagram, and after the show now has 1.3 million followers on Instagram. The next on my list is Fraud, and before the show he had 1.1 million followers on Instagram, and after the show 1.3 million followers on Instagram. The next on my list is Bbnaija, and before the show Bbnaija had 1.1 million followers on Instagram, and after the show 1.4 million followers on Instagram. Neo is the brother, and he had 1.2 million followers on Instagram, and after the show 1.4 million followers on Instagram. The next on my list is Kim Opera. Kim Opera had 1.6 million followers on Instagram, and after the show 1.7 million followers on Instagram. She didn't stay quite long. She didn't really stay long in the house. Kidwaya is the next on my list, and Kidwaya had 1.5 million followers, and after the show 1.7 million followers on Instagram. The next on my list is Uriel, and before the show Uriel had 1.6 million followers on Instagram, and after the show she got 1.9 million followers on Instagram. This girl, she used to be, in fact she was a whole vibe. Okay, I have the next on my list, and he's White Money, and before the show had 1.9 million followers, and after the show got 2.1 million followers on Instagram. These people are quite, in fact they're very popular, not even quite popular, they're so popular. Okay, Ike is next on my list, and before the show Ike had 2 million followers, and after the show 2.2 million followers on Instagram and is still counting. Sissy is next on my list, and before the show had wow. Sissy had 3.1 million followers before the show, and after the show, she got 3.3 million followers. I have Alex on my list, and before the show, she had 3.2 million followers on Instagram, and after the show, she got 3.4 million followers on Instagram. And the most followed housemate is no other person or Messi, Messi aka. She had 3.6 million followers before the show, and after the show she got 4 million followers. Man, now I know why people didn't want this girl to actually win, because she's rich, she has she's the most followed housemate, this that. Oh my goodness, Messi is really a vibe. Like, Messi is everything. Just drop in the comment section, drop the name of your favorite housemate. Okay guys, I'm going to drop it here. Just do it to subscribe to my channel, and then you turn the notification button to get notified, so that whenever I drop another content, you'll be able to see it. And please, watching from FB, do it to like, follow my page, and as well share my videos.